Good afternoon. This video will deal with a video put up by Gene Kim on dispensationalism. Now, in the first 20 minutes, he does an excellent job of explaining dispensationalism. And he actually puts up 4 dispensations. Old Testament, the church, the tribulation period, and then the millennium. Which you could say tribulation is really a continuation of the Old Testament. I think those are the 4 main puts up. Yeah, obviously here, church, tribulation, 1,000-year reign. Now, those are all things that was taught as far back as Scofield and Larkin. So these are very good, but the sound has solid dispensational teaching. Oh, by the way, I've got a new mic, one of the Yelty things. So let me know if the sound sounds better, if you get a chance. I also would commend Kim for taking comments. So that's good. He's one of the few Buckman guys that takes comments. Baker doesn't take comments. Brian Dengler doesn't take comments. So you got so most of these guys don't take comments. John Davis doesn't take comments. So we're at 28 minutes in. This is a challenge to dispensational believers. He is now going to try to slip in a heresy on you. A faith work system.
And notice. So we're going to look at these verses later on, but we can look at...
He just wrote under there, for the Jews, works salvation, which is a lie. They had to perform works to show their faith. And blessings were associated with, as he points out here, physical blessings. That's the issue. But their eternal salvation was always based on their faith alone.
An example right here. I want you to go to James chapter 2, verse 24. That's probably the most important one. And then right here, the Christian church, it's faith alone, not by works, salvation.
See, they're trying to tell you now that there were people saved in the Old Testament and were saved in tribulation with faith and works. That's what they're trying to slip in on dispensationalism people.
Now let's look at Romans 4 and then James chapter 2. Notice the clear contradiction here.
They think it's a clear contradiction because they don't know what the word justification means. 1 Timothy 3:16, the Lord Jesus Christ is said to be justified in the Spirit. That has to do with salvation. Here's the, they always went to the 1828 dictionary. Let me bring this up here. Webster's Revised Unabridged Dictionary. This is 1913. Let me see if she's got the 1913 one. Had the act of justifying or the state of being justified, a showing or proving to be just or conformable to the law. That's what that faith works is showing. Abraham showed his faith, and that justification wasn't for salvation. Same with Rahab. That was to show their faith, and for Abraham, it was like a pinnacle because he became a friend of God at that point. We'll go back to 1828 here. Okay, 1828, the act of justifying, a showing to be just or conformable to law, rectitude or propriety. Showing. Now, right back from Scofield notes. No one had a problem with James and Paul. James, they're showing their faith. Paul is dealing with eternal salvation. James is dealing with the temple walk, showing their faith, which resulted in justification for men. Where God was saying, see, these people, they've shown something. And that was by showing their faith, by doing something. That's what Hebrews 11 is talking about. All these guys get fouled up. This is the poison that Ruckman has snuck in dispensational salvation. This is, with his view of dispensational salvation, this is the poison he's put in there. And this has to be rebuked and refuted. And those who teach it, like Robert Breaker, need to be rebuked and refuted because they're corrupting the true doctrine of dispensationalism with this false view. And what Blake will tell you, oh, it's not important. Oh, they think it's very important because the reason Ruckman created this was he says, oh, if we say faith is faith alone in every dispensation, tribulational people will take the mark. This is what Brian teaches as well. They'll take the mark thinking they have eternal security. So we have to tell them it's a faith work system. They can't take the mark, and if they take the mark, of course, Breaker says you cut your right hand off and still, if you take it in the right hand, you can still cut it off. And Kim said some stupid stuff like that. It was so weird stuff. But the idea is that it can't be faith alone in the tribulation because there's something they can't do, and that would mean they lose their salvation if they did it. So it has to be a faith works because them not doing it means it's a work. Of course, ignoring the fact that God is protecting them from doing it. They're not being deceived. People take the mark in the tribulation for being deceived. They're deceived into taking it. And the elect won't be deceived. That protects them. God is able to protect his elect. All these Ruckman guys can't stand that. They're ballistic. Oh no, it has to be a faith work system. So that's what they're trying to con you with, people. That's okay. It's okay. It doesn't mean anything. It means something very much to them. Because they think if you teach faith alone in tribulation, you're leading people to take the mark. They have to be told that it's a works. And that's why Ruckman worked his way backward and created this heresy. So let's see Kim here talking about it.
Now, the false teaching going around churches is that in Romans 4, Paul is talking about salvation by faith, not by works. And then James is talking about if you're truly saved by faith, then the works will show. Well, you're just talking nonsense. That contradicted already right there.
No one's saying that. Scofield didn't say that. All it says is that the justification there was before men. And Abraham showed his faith. Now, the Lordship Salvationists might be teaching, well, if you have faith, this is what show. The justification there is not talking about eternal justification. It's talking about justification not before God, but before man. Paul is talking about justification before God. As soon as Abraham believed, he received imputed righteousness and he was justified. You can't receive imputed righteousness of God and not be justified before God. Do you understand that? These guys separate the attributes of God and say, oh yeah, well he had a 30-year period. He got imputed righteousness there, but he wasn't justified until 30 years later, whatever. That's what they want you to believe. Now, what Kim is here is deliberately misstating what the true dispensational view is. He knows what the true dispensational view is because he wrote about it in his book when he was dealing with James Knox. When James Knox refuted him. He knows what the truth is here.
But it makes more sense when you think this way. Why is it work salvation for Jews? Because it requires physical effort from your body. Faith is spiritual. That's why our salvation is based on something spiritual. So this opens a floodgates, you notice, when you go by group of people and time period. You see how this all connected?
You can't have... It's very clear that if it's works, then you have wherein to boast. They ignore these things. It can't be works. God doesn't allow works in his system as part of what the salvation issue is. The works must come from must be showing your faith. Everything must be established from your dependence on God. Old Testament, New Testament, everything was depending on God. So when you did works, you were depending on God. You did the works because you were depending on God.
Dispensationalism means right people, right time period. And you notice how all of this matched up? Perfectly to a T. Okay.
This is called discontinuity and continuity. The continuity is the fact that there were different gospels. The continuity is that it was always faith alone. So you'd have a different gospel in the kingdom gospel, for instance. They were looking for the Messiah, as opposed to the doctrine on the gospel of the grace of God under the New Testament. But one consistent, there was always consistent right from Adam right through, is always by faith alone. And the works you performed had to be done from faith. In Isaiah, God says, "Don't stop bringing sacrifices to me. I don't want them anymore. Because you're not bringing them with the right heart. You're not bringing them with the right idea. You're bringing them as ritual. For the sake of bringing them. I don't want to see them anymore.
So let's start off with Romans chapter 4. And then we'll read verse 4. Now to him that worketh is the reward, not reckoned of grace, but of debt. But to him that worketh not, but believeth on him that justifieth the ungodly, his faith is counted for righteousness. The nonsense that if you're truly saved by faith and works will show is debunked at Romans 4:4-5. Because the verse is, if you don't even work at all, but just have faith, God counts that salvation.
He's been a red herring. He's bringing the idea of lordship salvation. That's not the dispensational view. The dispensational view is that the works that were shown by Old Testament saints came from their faith. Not that New Testament saints have to prove their salvation by their works. That's what he's trying to sneak in here, people.
There's no such thing as genuine faith where works will show. Phooey. The only reason why you will talk like that is because you major in apologia, and then you're going to have to talk like blah, 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 in Greek and Hebrew. And then you talk in circles that even a Mormon that you're witnessing to on the streets get lost and confused on what you're talking about, and you get over 100,000 views, and people are gullible to say, what a brilliant man. No, he just acted confusing and blabbergasted that I can do as well, and I'll confuse anybody around the world. You know, in my teachings, what do? I do it clear. Cut to the point. I don't play games with you in semantics and fool you. Because I'm not a coward to use terminologies, semantics, to go wiggle worm around the world in circular motion so that a person can think, oh, I won the argument. Why? Because I'm more confusing? All right, now look at James chapter 2.
What he's put in is red hair. He's going after his Calvinists and Lordship Salvationists. That's not the people he's got to disagree with. He's got to deal with the people who are dispensationalists, who believe in the King James Bible, but who say clearly that works can't be part of salvation in any dispensation.
Look at James chapter 2. Look at the clear contradiction right here at verse 20.
See? Clear contradiction, James. No contradiction in James.
4. Now Romans was speaking to the New Testament Christian church that Paul was speaking to, right?
And he gave an Old Testament example, Abraham.
But look at this contradiction at James 2:24. Ye see then how that by works a man is justified, not by faith only. There is no such thing.
See that? So we're justified there. What does justified mean? Vindicated, shown to be righteous before either God or man. Abraham was shown to be righteous before man by what he did.
That's faith alone.
Now I notice all these comments seem very positive, so I don't know if he's weeding out his comments. All these positive comments, people. So he might be weeding out negative comments.
Calvinist claims sola fide, faith alone, then James 2:24 contradicts that.
Oh, no, it doesn't. Because the word justified doesn't mean faith, doesn't mean salvation, eternal salvation. It means being vindicated before a man. Abraham was justified before men when James, not before God. He was vindicated before God when he was believed and was imputed for righteousness. He holds up this Bible like he said something. Let's see what Robert Baker says. There he goes. His book here. The guy's always running to 1828 dictionary. James 2:21. Abraham's salvation is not our salvation. Paul said it was. But it is a type. Where do you get the word type? They say the same thing with when David shows up. Oh, as a prophecy. As a prophecy. He's lying to you. But that's okay. Afterwards, Abraham was justified when he offered up Isaac in Genesis 22. Christians are justified and imputed righteousness at the same time when they receive the new birth by faith. We get justified before men by our fruits, same way. That's our walk. This is part of Abraham's walk, people. He did something as a test. It was a test for Abraham. He wasn't tested for his eternal salvation. He was being tested for his walk. Faith produces works for God, but in the tribulation it is faith plus works set up, just as it was for Abraham. James 2:24, Abraham was justified by faith plus works. And after all this, you know what they do? These guys shift back and forth on you. Oh no, it's before the law, it's all grace. But they'll say Abraham was justified by faith and works. They're always double talking.
Now,
I'm going to leave a negative comment on this video, see if it shows up.
if they claim James 2:24 is a salvation verse where it's genuine faith where works will show, that contradicts sola fide then.
Well, we don't. No dispensationalist does. Go right back to the Schofield notes. Abraham was justified before God in Romans 4, and then justified before men in James chapter 2.
They don't even know what sola fide is. So then their semantic that they used and made up already is fake. It's already contradicted at James 2:24. See? Look at that. See, all you have to use is semantics.
No. We have to look at the dictionary and know that justification doesn't always mean the eternal salvation. Even they know that. Even the non-dispensationalists aren't that stupid. Only these people are the stupid people. Ruckman and his followers are this stupid to think that there's a contradiction between James 2 and Romans 4. And all you have to do is look at the word justification and know it means two different things. One before God, one before man.
And if I use sola fide 20 times, then you'll believe what I say. But I do it clearly, cut to the point, make you see it, make you use critical thinking on me.
Yeah, well, how about looking up a dictionary? Look up the meaning of the word justification. When Jesus Christ, when it says justified in the Spirit, was he saved? Is that doing eternal salvation? Or was the fact he was shown to be righteous before men?
You can observe for yourself, not get so lazy where you look at a 1-hour debate with a Calvinist and you go, oh, this is too long, so I can't take time to clearly dissect everything he says and see if what he's teaching.
See the con, people? He's going against setting a straw man dealing with the Calvinists. His argument isn't with the Calvinists. The Ruckman people aren't going against the Calvinists. They're going against Bible-believing dispensationalists who reject their idea of a faith-work system in any dispensation. And yet you accept Sluter, you accept Breaker, you accept Kim, you accept Brian Denver, you accept all these liars and then say it's not important when they know it's important enough for them to say, oh yeah, we've got to switch the system around and lie about faith works.
It's true. He just sounds smart and he looked like he won the debate, so I'm going to believe him. Oh my goodness. See, then any evolutionist will win in school when...
Let me stop here. I'm going to put this up. We'll deal more with this issue. So Robert Blake teaches. And you know what? He's come back and said, oh, it doesn't matter. It matters to him. Well, he wants to make sure it doesn't matter to you. He's teaching the book of James isn't written to the church. It's written to the written to the tribulation. Because James' justification is faith plus works. He tells you Abraham is saved by faith plus works. In contradiction with what Paul told you. He tells you David was a prophecy. David wasn't saved by faith alone. He was given a prophecy. Even though it says the sins are covered. Our sins aren't covered. Our sins have been removed. Old Testament sins were covered until they removed at the cross. Oh no. Oh no. But we who go against these guys, according to them, we're Bible believers. We have opinions. See, we're just opinionated. We just giving our opinions. And we don't look at the dictionary meanings. Show, vindication, being shown, something being shown. James was shown. And Abraham was showing his faith when he did with Isaac. He was tested by God. Tempted. And the word tempted there means tested in that context. As opposed to we being tempted. We can't be tempted by God. But the fact of the matter is that this is what these guys do. They lie to you, and it's okay. You don't think this is a major issue? Why do you think they have so many videos up on it, people? If they don't think it's a major issue. But you bring it up and they say, oh, I believe faith and that's all matters now in dispensation. Why they sneak in the idea of faith and works, faith and works, faith and works. Undermining dispensationalists. And the non-dispensationalists know, they understand it's faith alone. They got their own gospels. As I said, the continuity and discontinuity issue. Discontinuity is different gospels. They believe different things. Continuity through dispensation is always faith alone, because the attributes of God. God says, you're not going to add anything to what I do. But you believe these guys. You believe them. And when they lie to you and say, well, hey, we'll agree with this, and they'll keep putting the heresies out. They don't change. You think that's okay? They're undermining dispensationalism. Nothing's easier to prove that you're going against the character and attributes of God, to say this is a faith work system. That's an outright heresy, people. Gene Kim is a heretic. Robert Breaker is a heretic. Sluder is a heretic. Hoffman is a heretic. Yeah, the reference Bible. He defends this nonsense. Kind of skirts around it. He gets it half right, and then he backs off again. He says, well, before God, they can't get away from the works. They see God having a ritual plan of salvation in the Old Testament, because you show your faith by the rituals. It was always showing faith. The rituals didn't do anything. To the salvation. They were just said, this is what you have to do. Why? Because Israel was a nation of priests before the world. They did those rituals to show the world what they were doing. There's all these things, all the things they were set up to show the world the glory of God. From one nation. All these guys forget that. They ignore everything. But you accept these guys. You accept them right into your fellowship. When they're lying to you, they're lying about certain crucial issues. And he knows, Kim has written a book on that, the Ruckman Ruckus, and he knows with Knox, and Knox pointed this issue about justification. And he is rebuked by Ruckman, saying, Knox doesn't know anything about the Bible. That's what they ought to say. None of these guys know. If you can't disagree, everyone can see it. Faith works. When the Lord's telling us, well, you can't have works to anything. God doesn't accept your works. There's works showing faith, but that's not part of your salvation. That's the result of your salvation. Now he snuck in a lordship salvation thing. If you have faith, you will produce good works. But that was not the issue in dispensationalism and the reality of dispensational issue of faith alone through dispensation. The issue is that what does justification mean in James 2? And what does it mean in Romans 4? James and Rahab showed her faith. She wasn't saved because of what they did, people. She did what she did because she was saved. Do you understand the crucial difference that these people are lying to you and telling you that they were saved because of something they did, and you think it's okay? Because they smile a lot at you. I'm just going to please save everybody and everybody. What's my beacon on me? That's just his opinion. I teach the Bible. That first 20 minutes is Kim does an excellent job. And then he sneaks in lying. I don't know, he's got comments. I'm going to see if he takes a negative comment. It's a little positive there, so let's see. No, that's the reality of people. Robert Breaker is teaching a lie. You think it doesn't mean anything. When he's doubled down on it. And then he got upset because I did 8 videos that break up his 2-hour video. I did 8 videos. He said, oh, he could have been using those videos to save souls. Well, I'm saving people from a lie. Showing you a liar. But that's okay. And you know what they do, a lot of people? They feign ignorance. I don't know. I didn't know he said that. I don't know. I don't know what he says about this. I don't know what they say about that. I don't know what they say. You know, Gene Kim's talking about cutting off the top of your head. You know, take the mark off. They're Looney Tunes, people. And this comes from Ruckman. Ruckman thought there was a baptism. He used Nahum. And he said, well, it might be a baptism for Gentiles to get rid of them. What? Get rid of them? Oh, they said that. You people don't know about it, do you? Because Ruckman learned enough truth. He read Schofield, he read Larkin, he read all these guys who were solid, and then he came in there and he brought in his own bizarre views and mixed them in. Now, these guys weren't always right in everything. And to his truth, the fact, you know, to be commended for, Ruckman could defend the King James Bible. But the King James Bible doesn't help you if you distort it and you wrest it and ignore what the other scriptures say. Where does it say Abraham was a type of Yahweh's salvation? It would have to be an antitype somewhere. You have to have a type. The type has to have an antitype. They keep repeating that to you. Oh, he's a type of our salvation. And then they'll say, well, it's grace, right up to the law. And then they'll say, well, Abraham was by faith and works. Well, which is it? He's always shifting on you. They're always shifting. Because they can't have anyone in the Old Testament actually saved by grace alone. They say Noah was saved because he built the ark. But then they'll say, well, the Lord brought the works in. Not according to these guys. This is a heresy. This is an attack on the attributes of God in clear scripture. But you won't break away and let say anything because you say that they come back. It doesn't matter. It matters to them because they know they've got to keep pushing this because their view is if you teach faith alone, you're leading the people in the tribulation to go to hell because they'll take the mark, thinking they have eternal security. That's what Brian Denley teaches. Breaker, Ruckman, Sluter, Hoffman, all these guys. Kim. So he brought in the false argument. The argument that's really going on in dispensation is what kind of faith, or the issue of justification. What does justification mean? So Abraham wasn't saved when he got imputed righteousness? That's what you're telling us. And then when God sees his imputed righteousness, he has to say justified, people. He's saying he's seeing his own righteousness. What do you think he's saying? Not justified? Of course he's going to say justified. That's why we're justified before God. Because we get imputed righteousness. When he sees his own righteousness, he's saying justified because he sees his own righteousness in that person. And he justified David. These guys are going to tell you, Breaker would tell you no one in the Old Testament in the Abraham's bosom was actually saved. And you think that's fine. So I'm going to put this up. That's what that's why I go after these guys. Kim making a point going after, he's naming names and going after people at Calvin stuff. Good. Because that's why I go after these guys. Claim to be King James Bible believers. And rest in your scriptures. Lying to you. And what he says is correct up to a point. And then he says, well, James, see, justification. He knows what the issue is, the word justification. And Schofield note has it there. James, there's no contradiction. James was long before Paul did. So Paul knew what James wrote. And the issue is justification. Who's Abraham justified before men? That's why he's called a friend of God. He glorified God by what he did before men. Same with Job. But they did what they did because they were saved, people. And when someone tells you otherwise, and you just think that's fine, this guy's attacking the attributes of God. The very nature of salvation. It has to be faith alone. And then he'll come back and say, it was not important because people teaching faith alone in this dispensation. That's not optional. It's not an option to God. God's attributes demand to be faithful to him because he has to do everything. He's not going to share his glory. He does it all. He does it all. We don't do it. We don't bring our flesh into it and say, yeah, well, here's my works. Here, you got to accept my works. You bring those works with faith. That's what he's looking at. That's why he rejected the works in Isaiah. He says, I don't want your works anymore. He goes, there's no faith. The works were to show your faith. And what do you see in Hebrews 11? Not what these guys did, but why they did it, from their faith. And that's what the Lord Buckmanites have to reject. So let's stop, put this up. Amen. Thank you.